Yeah, hi, I'm Rick Siegel. This is about where I was on the day that the 9/11 tragedy occurred when the two towers were hit. I was in the shower. I was in the bed when I heard the first one, and I got the report and ran into the shower, got showered, and came down on my zappy scooter with all my stuff and zoomed in here, set up my cameras on tripods so that I could watch with my binoculars, and started filming the Twin Towers as they were burning. Yeah. At least the building was in the frame, and the whole building, so I could get to smoke the building and what was happening. I was hoping you could see the plane out of it, but there was no plane to see out of that. And there was just a hole and black smoke. You just see it look like a cigar standing up on end with burning tip and black smoke. Which again, why black smoke? It's ready to go out. And then, yeah, it went on, and the building was just it was just burning away, and it wasn't too exciting until all of a sudden it's disappearing, and there was no real sign. There was no sign that anything was that this was going to go down. It was all the black smoke, and the black smoke is really indicative that the fire's out. So you're waiting for all the sludge to go away and the fire departments to get up there and do their jobs, because buildings don't fall down like that. It was like the biggest shock, and no one. That's talking about a shock to see a building fall down. Thank God. I mean, a big one. It's like they're designed not to fall down. They're designed not to blow over. And like they said about this, it was designed for a 707 to run into it. And it took it. Two big jets flew into both the buildings, and they didn't fall. They're saying they fell because they were on fire. That doesn't make sense.
Tunnels, they are also closed down. Let's go to 1010 Winds reporter Eileen LaPalmer. She is at City Hall. Eileen?
Well, Lee, I'm here live outside of City Hall. As you can imagine, it is absolute chaos here. The entire city has come to a standstill. Everyone just standing, looking at the smoke pouring out of the World Trade Center at this moment. There are certain people trying to call their families. All the cell phones are down, as you can imagine, since they are these tribes. At the World Trade Center is the antennas where people would be calling on the cell phones. Therefore, people are lining up around the block just to use a payphone at this point. Everyone's still trying to figure out what's going on. I ran into this woman named Susan. She was supposed to be in the World Trade Center today at this very moment. Again, at this point, everything is shut down. The Woolworth building has been evacuated. City Hall is shut down and also has been evacuated. We will bring you more as soon as we have it. Eileen LaPalmer, 1010 Winds, live outside of City Hall.
Okay, and now we have word from Washington that the Capitol and the Treasury are being evacuated. This in addition to the White House and to the Pentagon. The Pentagon apparently having been hit by a plane this morning, not unlike the World Trade Center Twin Towers, both of which appear to have been on the news of what had transpired here in New York City this morning. If you are a New York City firefighter, you are ordered to report to your station immediately. We need the help this morning with a major disaster unfolding in New York City, and the world has changed markedly in little less than an hour. When we first got word that a plane had crashed into the World Trade Center, we then saw a second plane crash into the second tower of the World Trade Center. We later got word of a plane apparently crashing into the Pentagon, word that the White House had been evacuated, now the Capitol and the Treasury also having been evacuated. What we have not heard yet are casualty figures for what is obviously a massive disaster at the World Trade Center, and there is no doubt massive loss of life there. We've been talking to various reporters, people who've been trying to get to the scene, people who have been watching it unfold from all parts of the city, because the World Trade Center obviously is visible for many, many miles, and it's hard to miss when there is smoke and a massive explosion coming out of it. The first we heard was from 1010 Winds account executive Joan Fleischer. She was the first to call this in. Joan, you're still there?
I'm here.
Okay, you've been watching this on a rooftop with friends and neighbors, and how would you gauge their reaction at this point?
Everyone is in shock. People can't believe what they heard or they saw. They've been running downstairs to keep an eye on TV, but I haven't left this area since I called you at first, and it's unbelievable. I mean, they're still bringing in all the police and the fire trucks. They're ongoing. The smoke is unbelievable. It doesn't even look like they've been able to do anything other than respond to, I guess, emergencies on ground, because there's nothing happening within the building that I can see from here on top. They have police helicopters overhead, I think, to keep everybody else away. And the smoke is billowing, still heading towards Brooklyn. You can smell the smoke from here. It's coming from the entire area of both buildings. It's unbelievable.
Well, this really is a case of a situation that you thought couldn't get any worse, getting progressively worse.
Yes.
First one plane crashing into the World Trade Center, then a second crashing into the second tower of the World Trade Center.
Unbelievable.
Word now that a plane has crashed into the Pentagon. It has been evacuated along with the West Wing of the White House. The Treasury has been evacuated. The Capitol evacuated. The Sears Tower in Chicago has been evacuated. There was no threat of an attack against the Sears Tower, but they're obviously going to quit while they're ahead there. And all of this, the world...
Oh, wait. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, the building fell. Are you there? The building just fell.
Which?
Oh, my God, the South building just crumbled from the top. Oh, my God, the building just fell. The entire World Trade Center on the South building just fell. I just saw the whole thing. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I can't see anything else. The whole thing went down.
What?
Oh, my God. Oh, I saw the building crumble. It's all the way down. I can't see at what point it's still standing. Oh, my God.
What
Oh, my
Joan
God.
is saying is true. The tower has collapsed.
Oh, my God. The building has crumbled.
This is 1010 Winds, WINS New York. One of the
Completely down.
two towers, the South Tower of the World Trade Center, has just crumbled, collapsed in a pile of dust. This approximately less than an hour after it was hit by an aircraft.
The second building completely down. Where are you? You heard the I was up here front. Me too.
A situation that started bad just gets worse and worse and worse. The World Trade Center, South Tower, which was hit by a plane and
The
wrecked by
second
an
building
explosion.
collapsed. It's gone.
Approximately an hour
The
ago.
whole city's like now, the whole downtown's probably
collapsed.
got it all on the video, so it's gone. You can see what happened.
But the
It's going to be
World
horrifying
Trade
if
Center,
it fell
South
down into all the
Tower,
other buildings.
has collapsed. Let's go live to CNN for a moment.
Thick, black, billowing cloud of smoke that is rising over the Pentagon. You heard Jamie McIntyre a moment ago describe where that was coming from. I can also tell you that local radio, in addition to talking about evacuations, as we've heard at the Pentagon and the White House, is reporting that the Capitol building has been evacuated and the Treasury Department has been evacuated. Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, is exceptionally tense and clearly taking steps as if it is virtually under siege here. We don't know specifically, as you said, what has taken place at the Pentagon, but this is very serious, striking at the heart of the national government. And as John King was explaining, the White House
Frank, it's Aaron. I need to interrupt you for a second. Again, there has been a second explosion here in Manhattan at the Trade Center. We are getting reports that a part of the tower, the second tower, the one a bit further to the south of us, has collapsed. We are checking on that.
Well, again, it does appear that the second tower of the World Trade Center has collapsed. 10 to 1's account executive Joan Fleischer was looking at the building and boy, it was just 3 minutes ago. John, what did you see?
Oh, well, lots of smoke, and then the next thing I heard an explosion, and the building from the top, the south building, just crumbled. Just completely went down. I saw it. It's hard to see all the pieces, but you can see it tipping over and just crashing to the ground. Now, I don't even know where it crumbled from on the south building because there's so much smoke I can't see anything now. All I can tell you is that the fire seems to have spread on the north building now because I can see the flames on the south side, which I couldn't see before.
Well, we can only hope that they had gotten everybody or the majority of the people out of that building before it collapsed. But again, these are enormous buildings, and obviously, let's hope that they have the area around those buildings cleared out. We've had no reports of casualties. Obviously, there are going to be more than a few in the wake of this. If you're just joining us this morning, you're in for a horrific surprise. Both buildings of the World Trade Center have been hit by aircraft, and the South Tower of the World Trade Center has apparently collapsed in a pile of dust. Let's go to 1010 Wins editor Jim Maloney. He was in Hoboken waiting to get into the tunnel when this happened.
Yelly, and the scene here is just one right out of one of the movies you would see in Hollywood. People walking around with cell phones in tears, holding their heads, looking up at what's left of the World Trade Center, just shaking their heads in disbelief. The entire side of New Jersey now is totally affected by this and has been for quite some time. The tunnels are shut down, people are milling around, but not knowing what to do, not knowing where to go. It's a scene just of utter chaos, and just wondering what happened to those folks in the Trade Center just makes it all the worse. Wait.
All right, 1010 Wins newsman Jim Maloney, who was watching the South Tower of the World Trade Center when it went down, and he is stuck at the Lincoln Tunnel. All of the tunnels, both leading from New Jersey into New York City, have been shut down, as has the George Washington Bridge. All air traffic in the United States has been suspended until at least 5 o'clock in the wake of this. Let's get brought up to date on what has transpired in about the last hour and 15 minutes in this country, in this world. Here's 1010 Wins newsman James Faraday. James.
Okay, Lee, and to recap, two planes, of course, crashed into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan this morning. The aircraft, first one, crashed into the upper floors of one of the towers. That is the one with TV and radio antenna on top. Witnesses reported hearing a huge explosion and heavy black smoke could be seen pouring out of the building. Wreckage was also seen embedded in the upper floors of the skyscraper, and ever since has been raining down onto the streets of Lower Manhattan. Shortly afterward, a second plane hit the other tower. That is the tower with the observation deck on top. The Associated Press has learned the FBI is investigating reports that the two crashes are the result of foul play. Of course, there's no word on casualties, but suffice to say, the loss of life presumably profound. Given the magnitude of this disaster, the South Tower of the World Trade Center just minutes ago collapsed to the ground. Only one tower is standing at this point. President Bush, speaking in Florida, was quick to react to this tragedy.
I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
This is not only a New York story. In Washington, word that the Pentagon has been struck. A plane crashed into the Pentagon this morning. CNN's Chris Plant is in the nation's capital.
And speaking to people here at the Pentagon as they're being evacuated from the building, I am told by several people that there was, in fact, an explosion. I was told by one witness, an Air Force senior enlisted man, that he was outside when it occurred. He said that he saw a helicopter circle the building. He said that it appeared to be a U.S. military helicopter, and that it disappeared behind the building where the helicopter landing zone is, and that he then saw a fireball go into the sky.
That fireball was apparently from a plane. An Associated Press reporter on the scene saw the tail end of a large airliner launch into the Pentagon. Of course, the Pentagon has been evacuated along with the West Wing of the White House, the Capitol, all major branches of the United States government evacuated this morning. In Chicago, the Sears Tower has been evacuated. White House has been evacuated after the Secret Service received a credible threat of a terrorist act against the mansion. The State Department, as we mentioned, also evacuated. Fox News Channel's Jim Engel is at the White House and has the very latest.
The roads around the White House, the streets around the White House were blocked seconds ago. Members of the Uniform Division of the Secret Service ran out to intersections and started diverting traffic. There are emergency vehicles on almost every block around the White House. The road south of the White House has also been blocked. And as you know, the White House is being evacuated. Federal employees are standing on the street corners in and around the White House, having left the building for fear of another attack.
President Bush is now flying to Washington from Florida, where he'd scheduled an educational event. The president's flying Air Force One. Nationwide. 1010 Winds continuous coverage moves on now with 1010 Winds anchor Judy DeAngelis.
As you said, it is an absolutely unreal sight. You see the pictures side by side of New York and Washington billowing smoke. The collapse of the World Trade Center. 1010 Winds reporter Eileen LaPalmer is down in Lower Manhattan. We're going to try and get to her live now and see if she can give us any more information. Eileen, are you there?
Yeah, Judy, I'm here. Well, all I can tell you is, as you can imagine, absolute chaos. People were running, panicking just when the smoke and flames were billowing out. People were trying to head down south towards the World Trade Center when suddenly there was a large rumbling and the entire tower fell and collapsed to the ground. People came running north because of the smoke. It was billowing up Broadway. There's a big black cloud of smoke. You can't even see down Broadway from the vantage point of City Hall. I've now looked inside a building, but all the buildings...
And once it went down, the cop, you know, he was on the thing walking, oh yeah, okay guys, you got to get out because this is going to be a landing zone. Because you can see, they were going to use these piers and bring them in, you know, to bring in the wounded but then all of a sudden there was nothing there. So it's like, where did all the parts and people go? Nobody was hurt. Either you disappeared off the face of the earth or you had a few scratches. And I went down to the next pier to do the next building because the Frank Sinatra pier was open, and so it's 3 more blocks down. Didn't make a difference, and like I'm not going to sit here and argue because I know it's just happened, and I was hoping there's supposed to be survivors, and it was great that they would be coming here to get fixed, and you know.
Tom Kennedy, a rescue worker with the National Urban Search and Rescue. It's part of FEMA. We're currently one of the first teams that was deployed to support the city of New York for this disaster. We arrived on late Monday night and went into action on Tuesday morning. And not until today did we get a full opportunity to work the entire site.
All the Port Authority bridges and tunnels closed down. Nothing's taking off. All the airports are closed down. The roads are closed down. The twin disaster at the World Trade Center happening shortly before 9 a.m., then right around 9 a.m., and then just a little while ago, a third explosion, which actually brought down the South Tower. 1010 Winds reporter Juliet Papa is down around City Hall. Let's try and get through to her now and see what's happening down there. Juliet.
Judy, I am at the intersection of Broadway and Chambers Street, where it looks as if police are trying to virtually evacuate the whole lower Manhattan area. When I saw the smoke resulting from the crash of the towers going down, people were running up the block. They were running up Broadway. They were running up on 7th Avenue South, running in a panic northbound from the area. I had been trying to get down here in a car. I was on 7th Avenue South going over to Broadway, and as I heard Joan Fleischer on our broadcast live saying that the towers collapsed, I saw the billow of smoke that resulted from that. People with fear stricken all over their faces, just running up the block. Right now, it appears as if I said that the entire area is being evacuated. There are police walking around, just directing people, citizens that are walking around, directing traffic and directing people out. More emergency vehicles are on their way down here. You might hear the sirens as I speak. They are just continuing to go. I spoke with EMS a while ago. I managed to get through to them, and they said don't even think about trying to get a tally on injured or fatalities. So that was about 45 minutes ago before the towers went down. So we cannot even begin to guess what havoc this has wreaked. But as I said, it appears that all of this is being evacuated. I am being asked to get off this phone right now. Police are just trying to clear the whole area. Juliette Pabla, 1010 Winds, reporting live from Chambers and Broadway.
And we are just now receiving word that all international flights to Washington, D.C. and New York City are being diverted to Canadian airports. Air lockdown in the airspace across the entire United States, and of course here in the city nothing is going in or going out. 1010 Winds News Director Ben Beverak is at the Manhattan Bridge. Let's check in with him. Ben.
Judy, I have a direct line of sight to what is left of the World Trade Center. The fire continues to burn. I can see the flames through the thick smoke. As I walk through Brooklyn to get to this position, I can tell you, as Juliette alluded to, the bridge is pretty much blocked off. Everyone is being diverted. There is just no way into the city except for emergency vehicles. I did pass through a couple of parks and on some of the streets, and before, when I reported about an hour ago, there were people at their gas pumps who turned to look at the smoke that was coming from the city. Folks stepping out of bodegas and stores to look. Now people are gathering in large groups. In fact, in one corner, I saw a group of people actually holding hands and praying. As I stand on the Manhattan Bridge, which is closed, it is open to pedestrian traffic. Some people are walking across, but there's just no way for them to. As I look out, something is that I can't see. Is that the building going down? I think the second building, the World Trade Center going down.
Yes, that is the second tower. That is the second tower.
And then the building just disappeared in the smoke. It is an incredible sight. People around me are thinking about it. I cannot even describe it. It is one of those rare moments where you just can't describe it. It looked as though it was a puff of cloud, almost like a firework explosion of cloud. No noise with it. And then all of a sudden, I just blinked my eyes. I looked up at a bunch of people in the background going, oh my God. And the second building appears to have gone down.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Ben. That is the second building that has gone down. It came out like a plume of smoke, like a banana unpeeling. Plumes of smoke coming out, and then absolutely nothing. And now where there were two huge buildings, two huge towers, there is now nothing but plumes of smoke. Can you still see where you're looking at, Ben?
All I see now is the clouds are beginning to drift away, and it is nice. The blue sky behind it, and it is a remarkable thing. You know, when you come into the city, you look around the panorama view, you see the Empire State Building, you see the Chrysler Building, then you pan down to the Sound of Manhattan, and you always expect to see the World Trade Center towers there. It's happy. You just expect to see it now. To look here, to see it vacant, except for a cloud of smoke, it is just incredible.
Well, Ben, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Joan Fleischer because she actually has a bird's eye view of what's happening. So thank you very much, Ben. We'll get back to you shortly. Joan, I understand that you are still on the roof of your building in Lower Manhattan, yes?
Still watching.
Still watching now. We just saw moments ago the second of the twin towers collapsing to the ground.
That's correct. That's correct. It just went down. No explosion, just a puff of smoke, and it went down.
So you heard nothing, no explosion.
I didn't hear any explosion. All I saw was a big, like a puff of smoke, and then it just went down. And I can't see. I mean, I'm on the top of a 6th floor building, but I can't see any of the World Trade Towers at all.
Now, Joan, and I should say that you are one of the account executives here at 1010 Winds. You have been with us since the beginning, since this first started. You called in and told us about the very first explosion that occurred. You were there when the second one occurred. And this has been just a surreal experience.
It's unbelievable. I can't explain it. From the start to now, the sky is completely blue except for white smoke clouds. That are forming clouds. There's no world. The skyline is completely different. There's no twin towers.
All right, now we are getting word, no confirmation, that D.C. police apparently are saying that, D.C. police plane, rather, I should say. Let me get that correct. A D.C. police plane has been hijacked, is now en route to Washington. We do not know anything more than this at this point. It has not been confirmed. We do not know the intentions of this plane, only that we are receiving word that a D.C. police plane hijacked and is now en route to Washington. This is just literally becoming more bizarre by the second. In a day when everybody was saying it is the primary, it is snooze city, it has gone from being absolute, incomprehensible mayhem. the site horrendous. You have been watching this the whole morning from your roof, Joan.
DC Police.
All right, Joan is now talking to somebody else. You know what, Joan, what we're going to do now is thank you very much. We're going to get back to you. Stay with us. We're going to go to Al Jones, reporter Al Jones, who is now on Hudson Street. Al, can you hear me?
Well, Judy, it was absolute pandemonium when another part of the South Tower came down here. I'm at Hudson between Duane and Reed. We were standing on the street when we heard what sounded like a plane coming overhead, but actually it was the roar of more of the building coming down. People running down the street, screaming, this huge dust cloud filling the sky. We dipped into one of the buildings here. A supervisor, lucky enough, opened up the door, let us in as this huge cloud went by of debris, and you could hear the roar of the building continuing to fall. I ran into a fellow, Tom Colden, who was on the 64th floor of the North Tower. When the first plane hit, he said everything was orderly, they were evacuating, but when the second explosion occurred and they lost power, lost lights, it was pandemonium. He said they just rushed down the stairs. Firefighters were there to try to lead them out, but he came out dazed, covered with soot, covered with ash, just staggering away from the building, lucky to be alive. Al Jones, 1010 Winds, reporting live from outside the World Trade Towers.
This has been an absolutely unbelievable morning. The news is breaking almost faster than we can get it to you, and right now we are going to go to 1010 Winds reporter John Montone. John, are you there?
Yes, I am, Judy, and I have to describe the most incredible scene of my life. Right after I got off the air with Lee about an hour ago, I was talking to people on Broadway, getting descriptions of what they had seen.
No, it's like not even just a building, it's all those people that left. It's like that was what happened in this place, is that there were so many like women who lost their husbands here. And watching them go down and trying to reach them on their cell phones with no response, and then watching their heartbreaks and stuff. The breakdown of the, I think on the tape, if you hear there's some crying in the girl, and it was just heart-wrenching and terrible, terrible. And then finally a jet comes up the river, and like you see, you got these fighter jets look cool. This is but I didn't feel thrilled anymore. Instead, I'm like, where were you? What the hell are you doing here so late? We needed you. They weren't there. Makes you feel not American anymore, you know? You want to stand up for it, but you can't stand up for that. Yeah, where were you guys? Yeah, and that 7, I didn't even know where it was. I never heard of Building 7, never knew where it was. I said, how did Building 7? What? It's way over here. What the hell's that going down for? Yeah, okay, I'll film that too. What the hell? And sat at the pier and sat and sat and sat. They said, oh, it's going to come down. I wish I had known, but they didn't say they were going to take it down at 5:30. It was like, and then like, tuk. So I was running out of film, and I said, oh, I'll put it on stop motion. Because if, the minute I start seeing it, but it went and the tuk. That's it, gone. I'm like, wow, and it's a tiny little building. What happened to you? And there were other buildings all around. Nobody else went down. And again, I got asked. I'd never seen in my life steel buildings falling. That was why they built them. They said they were safer. They didn't burn. So it's, yeah, there's so many questions, right? It's hard to buy into all of it. And while I hate to think that people you trust are stabbing you in the back, history shows they don't just do it on occasion, but they do it all the time, and they only get caught on occasion.
Let's return to Rick's original footage. Next, we feature the first steel frame collapse due to fire in history, World Trade Center 7. Rick used time-lapse mode to conserve tape, so 2 seconds of real-time recording is followed by a 6-second pause. The first footage is shortened and speeded up to get straight to the collapse.
Here's an update now from the 1010 Winds newsroom. Later tonight, we expect to hear from President Bush. That plane was to be used in here's Matt Ward.
Major difficulties around the area. New Jersey Transit outbound Hoboken Terminal operating on a load-and-go basis, no inbound service, and also out of Newark Penn Station, limited service on the Northeast Corridor. and North Jersey coastlines and the Raritan line as well, and limited service from Penn Station and New York.
It does appear that building number 7 has just collapsed. We've been telling you that that building was on fire. Building number 7 at the trade complex has now apparently collapsed. We also have reports that building number 5 might be on fire too, but now a huge amount of smoke and debris now up in that area again because of this building number 7 going down. Al Jones just saw building number 7 go down at the World Trade Center. It's collapsed, Al?
Hey, you know, we've seen so much today with the collapse of number 1 and number 2. Folks standing here on the corner of Leonard Street and West Broadway. We were just sitting here watching all the smoke pouring up from number 7. Number 7 is the kind of reddish-brown building that's towards the north end of the complex. And although we really couldn't see much damage on it, there was smoke pouring out of it here for hours. And folks just kind of standing around, milling about it. And then I wasn't watching. I just could tell from the reaction of the crowd what had happened because I'd heard it already before. The gasp, the screams, people immediately turning and starting to run, even though we're probably a dozen blocks from the center itself. People starting to run away from the scene. And I turned in time to see what looked like a skyscraper implosion. Looked like it had been done by a demolition crew. The whole thing just collapsing down on itself, and another big, huge plume of gray and white smoke shooting up into the air. And then more of the smoke billowing up the street here. So that's number 1, number 2, and now number 7 that have come down from this explosion, and folks just simply can't believe it.
Well, Al, I didn't realize because the other towers are so big, but number 7 is 47 stories. That was a huge building in its own right.
Right. It was the one that kind of was dwarfed by the other two. It was kind of a reddish brown, and it more or less ran east and west. It was a long, thin building, but it had been damaged and it had been on fire for hours, and the smoke just seemed to intensify. But we really couldn't see a lot of damage from this angle, from the north side of the structures. That's why everybody was so surprised when all of a sudden it just fell.
Now, the other thing, too, we presume it has been burning for some time. As you indicated, there was nobody inside, and we hope no danger to anybody when it went down.
Well, that's the thing is that when number 2 went down, I don't think, and I know I'll put myself in that group, I never thought these things would fall down. I mean, we were watching them. You could see them burning. A lot of it was damaged. There was fire coming out of the top, but I just never for the life of me thought that these huge buildings that have been here so long would actually just fall. And that's what happened. They just crumbled.
Well, as reporters, you kind of run to the scene, and that's what happened with some of the firefighters and police, too. They ran to the scene, and, of course, with devastating results.
And that's what the thing is, with all the triage that's been set up around that area and all the people that were being treated and all the emergency personnel that are close to it, you only hope that they were far enough back so that when this came down that they were all out of harm's way.
Because, as you suggested, we never thought they would go down.
No, the gasp from the crowd here was all you needed to know that this just shocked everybody again.
That is 1010 Wins reporter Al Jones with the news and giving us that description of World Trade Center building number 7 going down, a 47-story building. That, too, is gone. Let's go to 1010 Wins reporter Eileen LaPalmer. Eileen?
All right, Ralph, I'm here on Hudson Street. As you've been hearing, that 7 World Trade Center just collapsed about 5 minutes ago. Suddenly we saw officers, tons and tons of, maybe 100 officers, police officers, running north, running along Hudson Street, telling people to move, get out of the way. Again, the smoke was billowing north, and people were running. I'm here with an emergency worker. He's a first-year NYU medical student. He was down there. He was trying to help people. His name is Daryl.
Yeah, so I was just standing there, we were watching the building actually because it was on fire. The bottom floors of the building were on fire, and we heard this sound that sounded like a clap of thunder. Turned around, we were shocked to see that the building was it looked like there was a shock wave ripping through the building, and the windows all busted out, and it was horrifying. And then about a second later, the bottom floor caves out, and the building followed after that, and we saw the building crash down all the way to the ground. We were in shock, and then the worst part about it, we saw the smoke and the plumes of smoke coming after us, and we had to run. We had to run north, actually, on that street. We just ran north to escape from the smoke, and luckily we weren't hurt, but it was certainly very, very scary. That was about it.
Okay, and Daryl and his friends, they are NYU medical students. They are going to go back and help with the emergency.
It was at least a month. I sat every day. I'd come out just to look and sit in the evening. And the wind's this way, always on my back. And I thought such a blessing for me, but I have plenty of friends in that direction, so on the other side of Manhattan. And and they're going to suffer, and they have children and young kids, and Brooklyn is this family neighborhood, and now they're going to sit there and they weren't warned, no relocate. Like, I guess the government looks at it, how can we relocate all those people, or tell them like, wow, we have to get out of here for a while because at least you're going to be breathing for a month. Some horrible things.
Let's take another look at what happened to 7 World Trade. From the viewpoint of the televised footage, we can clearly see the outline of World Trade Center 7 as it falls.
Fire for hours, and the smoke just seemed to intensify, but we really couldn't see a lot of damage from this angle, from the north side of the structures. That's why everybody was so surprised when all of a sudden it just fell. I just never for the life of me thought that these huge buildings that have been here so long would actually just fall. And that's what happened. They just crumbled.
On the left, we have televised footage, and on the right is Rick's original footage.
Here's an update now from the 1010 Winds newsroom.
There is no adjustment for sound delay.
Later tonight, we expect to hear from President Bush. This was also, that plane was to be used. And here's Matt Ward.
Difficulties around the area. New Jersey Transit outbound Hoboken Terminal operating on a load-and-go basis, no inbound service, and also out of Newark Penn Station, limited service on the Northeast Corridor and North Jersey coastlines and the Raritan line as well, and limited service from Penn Station, New York, and to Penn Station in Newark.
The sound delay has now been removed.
Later tonight, we expect to hear from President Bush. This was also, that plane was to be used. And here's Matt Ward.
Difficulties around the area. New Jersey Transit outbound Hoboken Terminal operating on a load-and-go basis, no inbound service, and also out of Newark Penn Station, limited service on the Northeast Corridor and North Jersey coastlines.
Later tonight, we expect to hear from President Bush. This was also, that plane was to be used.
Now let's use forward and reverse to analyze the shock wave that ripped through the building.
You know, we heard this sound that sounded like a clap of thunder. Turned around, we were shocked to see that the building was, well, it looked like there was a shock wave ripping through the building, and the windows all busted out, and, you know, it was horrifying. And then, you know, about a second later, the bottom floor caves out, and the building followed after that, and we saw the building crash down all the way to the ground. You know, we were in shock.
Difficulties around the area. New Jersey Transit outbound Hoboken Terminal operating on a load-and-go basis, no inbound service, and also out of Newark Penn Station, limited service on the Northeast Corridor and North Jersey coastlines and the Raritan line as well, and limited service from Penn Station, New York, and to Penn Station in Newark, and no service into the city on New Jersey Transit. Also, New Jersey Transit operating on a load-and-go basis out of New York's Penn Station.
Well, Al, I didn't realize because